Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Choujin X Chapter 31, Part 2. When we last left our heroes, the battle against Chandra continued, now with Ellie, formally joining the fight. And by the two of them by Tokio and Ellie working together, they managed to get some good hits in on Chandra. But as the battle went on, Chandra got closer and closer to a chaos state. He didn't quite reach it yet, but he did just zoom at Ellie and grab her with flames approaching 1300 degrees Celsius. And so Tokio had to chase after them. And finally, after a lot of struggle, perfect his wings for the very first time, allowing him to fully fly after Chandra and Ellie. And that's where we leave off. So with that said, let's dive right on into Chapter 31, Part 2, Spiral/Rasen. This, of course, the same title as last time. And we pick up right where we left off, with Tokio flying after Chandra. We see the flapping of his wings as he's just straining, desperate to catch up. More! He reaches after them. We see the sweat start to pour, the veins on his neck bulging as he strains. Higher! Vultures are supposed to fly higher than any! And Chandra looks back and sees Tokio approaching. Than any other bird in the world! And with that, he headbutts Chandra full on, knocking him to the ground. I guess being able to withstand those flames momentarily. And Chandra hits the ground and breaks his neck. Of course, he can just raise out of it. But we see, speaking of someone who needs a raise, Ellie's charred corpse. She's just, a darkened mass. Barely there. And Tokio flies after her. Ellie! And he grabs her before she hits the ground. And not fast enough to stop himself from hitting the ground, though, as he bounces off the ground and rolls. Falling into the earth. And, we see Ellie's, charred corpse on top of him. Raise. Ellie, raise. You need to raise. I think he passes out, and Ellie then comes to. Mid-raise. Parts of her face are still burned, but, she's still, conscious. Tokio can, barely mutter, Ellie, I can see your boobs. Because her clothes are burned off. Right. And Ellie covers herself. Obviously. And Tokio, almost gentlemanly, don't worry. I'm not gonna think about them or anything. Or, not so gentlemanly. There's barely anything there. And Ellie smacks him, because this is just not the time. This is just not the time. But with that, Ellie has raised back. And Tokio, after having his grand moment of saving her, is out of the fight for now. And Chandra, not even raised, is standing, but his neck is at a full-on, 90-degree angle. As Ellie just panics, you're still alive like that? And then he raises, bringing his neck back to normal, and Tokio mutters, Ellie, I'm really sorry. About what? If it's about my boobs, then no. Not that. Can you run? Yeah, he's fully out. But Ellie's shocked. What? I can't even lift a finger right now. I don't think I can raise either. I can't run away. Much less fight. So... Sorry. And Ellie looks at him as we see, Chandra powering up in the background. And she closes her eyes and tells him, you know what my dream is? What? To become stinking rich. Let my grandpappy live easy. And Tokyo's just, wait, Ellie, now's not the time. Get myself a Goldilocks hubby and a ginormous house and a huge dog. And also... Oh, she's extended her dream to eat a whole ton of good grub with you and my hubby. That's just sweet. That's just their friendship. They're so good. I love them. And like, not, Ellie definitively is like not in a romantic way, where there's not a romantic dynamic here. We're just friends, and I'm not abandoning you. And like, they're just fun. They're a fun little pair. And that shocks Tokio. That's my new dream. And she stands up to go fight Chandra again. Ellie, you can't do it alone. And Ellie stops him. Tokio, thank you for looking out for me. Now we're going home. And I think she grabs Tokio together, and she heats up, and... Oh, no. This is not her, like, running away with Tokio. This is her, like, gearing up, much in the exact same manner that Chandra is doing to continue her fight. As she throws herself at Chandra as Tokio calls, Ellie! Damn it, come on, move! Ellie! And Ellie has grabbed Chandra as she just growls, time to say goodbye, Chandra. I'm putting an end to this! And she, like, grabs him by the head, thumb in his eye sockets, and thinks, he's horrible. It'd be okay if I killed him. Which is interesting, given everything we learned about Chandra a couple chapters ago, or part 2 of the last chapter, I think it was, that suggests that maybe he's not as pure evil as we've been led to believe. Live. We have to survive. And she evolves from smoke into flames, surrounding herself and Chandra. Chandra is just fully consumed in this fire. As Ellie screams and Tokio can only watch from the distance, and he calls up, Ellie! And Chandra is just, feeling that pain. Or this might be Ellie. Don't you even think of raising. And Chandra is, like, trying to raise, but he's just screaming. Don't you go crying. You ain't allowed to. As, like, we can see his, like, flesh start to burn. And she comments, darn it. Even he smells human when he burns. Reminds me of Graham's funeral. Which is another way, rather than emphasizing, an inherent goodness to Chandra, just going back to his basic humanity. That, like, Ellie, even, like, more so than I think and this is, I've seen Ellie so far as being kind of in the same vein as the very rules-obsessed members of Yamato Mori, in a way that Tokio seems destined to, like, set apart from them. But here, she seems to question this sort of good and evil, to get at this fundamental truth that even as evil as Chandra at least seems to be, again, I call question on the notion that he's just pure evil, he still is human. And we have, for a second there I thought we'd be going into a flashback right now, but I think this is, at least questioning whether or not, like, the fight is over. Not yet. And she this whole sequence climax. I'm trying to, like, work out what's going on here. Climax in this glorious display of fire that looks almost like a flower. Honestly, it's kind of gorgeous. But Ellie kind of thinks she's won, but Chandra's scorched body grabs her. Raise. And I love the demonic look of this panel on the bottom left of page 16 as Ellie just panics. There's no way. And Chandra regains control of the situation, establishing himself as, one of the strongest members of the enemy faction, and smashes his hands into Ellie's back, sends her plummeting towards the ground. But, like, Chandra can barely speak, for one thing, and acknowledges her strength. I've never been cornered like this. Not since Sandek. Like, he can't even, like, speak proper. But he's excited here. He's excited for all of this. That's amazing! Just, like, the fucked up nature of his face at this point. And Ellie just questions, oh, yeah? And she's trying to fight back, to get her smoke out. Darn it. Come on, come out. Smoke. And all she can get is this little puff of air. It's too late. don't want to die. No, can't die. But, darn it. I thought I was gonna... Oh, this is setting up like a death scene. I don't think Ellie's actually going to die. That wouldn't feel right. But it does feel like Ishida wants us to think this is it for her. Because we get full-on, like, dreams of her future. I thought I was gonna study and be so proud of myself. And we see her and Tokio and Azuma, like, in the classroom. But I'm gonna die at this rate. If I die, then I'm gone. I'll disappear from the world forever. And I won't breathe or think or exist. So Ellie's an atheist. Good to know. And the attention spent on that makes you sort of curious about the religious look, like the religious makeup of Choujin X's world. Because I feel like normally, you know, anime tends to assume either an afterlife or full-on reincarnation. But just this idea of death as nothing, it's a common one throughout the world, but you don't normally see it in like a shonen anime. I don't know. Anyway, which means everything's gonna disappear. And then I love that everything's gonna disappear, and then the cut to black. As we just had the little speech bubble. And with that fear, I'm curious we're about to see from Ellie a sort of echo of what Tokio did at the end of his fight with Azuma. That, like, final form, the creepy mask thing. If we're gonna see an Ellie version of that. Because in another great, like, 2-page spread, she grabs Chandra's wrist as he's trying to flame her. I don't want that. And Chandra just tells her, you are going to die. And Ellie stops him, I'm gonna live. Even if I gotta steal everything from ya. And I don't quite know what's going on right here. It looks like a storm. And it's blowing Chandra away. Huh? And he's like swept up in it. Ah! And what looks like a hand? Like this, like I can see Chandra sort of, you know, spiraling. The Rasen of the title, the actual spiral. But it looks like it's like circling around like this part of a hand, which is an interesting look. And we see Ellie, the smoke, this giant, you know, burst of smoke emanating from her hand as she's genuinely shocked to see it. And she's just, you know, it poofs out, and then this tiny little, like, spiral symbol remains. As we get this shot of, like, a nearly empty panel, except for the ground behind Ellie and Ellie herself. As she's victorious, I guess. To be continued. Okay. So, do we think Chandra's down? Cause, like, given the role he seems to be set to play in the story, you know, I don't think he's dead. But this feels like a big climax to Chandra, which is weird given how little he's actually done. Like, he has his initial appearances setting up Ellie's powers, and then he's sort of MIA until this arc, when after being set up as Ellie's big, you know, enemy, and then he's already down? I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility, I suppose. But maybe I'm, like, you know, so focused on, like, I'm getting echoes of Eden Zero's bad habit of just, like, getting rid of really interesting villains too early. Especially with the work that Ishida just did a couple weeks ago, to establish Chandra as this big threat. As this big, you know, or not as a big threat, no, just the opposite. As a more human enemy than sort of Yamato Mori is set to believe. And it's sort of disappointing that they would get rid of him so, if he is genuinely gone, they get rid of him so fast. Now, this being Choujin X, he very well could have pulled off another raise, but, like, out enough that he can't really move. But, you know, in the way that, like, Ricardo and Ume were beat. They're not dead, but they're just, like, out of it. Even with a raise, they're so exhausted they can't really do much. I'd be fine with that. Giving Ellie this victory, but allowing Chandra to, like, you know, still be around, still be this enemy for her. That would be fine by me. Just because, like, and also, I don't know, even if he's gone, well, no, I'm gonna not open that thought with that line. I'm thinking about just the notion of Chandra as this experienced smoke Choujin and Ellie not having much experience, but still pulling out a victory. Could she be another potential X candidate? Because there's something about that big display of power that, like I brought up earlier, kind of calls to mind the some people are just born different form that Tokio got in his fight with Azuma. I can, like, feel echoes of that plotline here with Chandra. Like, or not with Chandra, with Ellie. This final moment. The grabbing him, the big thunderstorm, the spiral thing, the hand in the sky. Like, that all feels like it's something special. Like, it's not just Ellie overpowering him, it's Ellie having something else within her that brings that power out. I don't know what it is. But, like, especially Ellie's look of shock and even a little bit of fear on page 24, when she's, like, in that great full-page panel of the smoke spiraling around her, along with, like, the words spiraling around her. There's a lot of good spirals in part 2 of this chapter. Like, I feel like there's a hidden depth to Ellie's power that we haven't really seen yet. Or that we're only now starting to understand, that we're now seeing our first hint of. I don't know. But, like, I also love, there's a kind of selfishness to Ellie that's always sort of been on display. You know, her initial dream about, I'm gonna become rich, and, you know, sure, let her grandpa live easy, but, like, that's almost minor compared to the get the hot husband and the good house and the good dog. And sure, she grows a little bit by, like, actively including Tokio in her dream. But it still is, like, sort of founded on her own selfishness, right? That's sort of a defining character trait of hers. And I like the fact that, like, her big, you know, self-examination power-up is not out of wanting to protect Tokio, it's out of wanting to protect herself. You know, her line here to Chandra, that final line, I'm gonna live even if I gotta steal everything from ya. There is, like, those word choices are very selfish. It's very, you know, I will do whatever I have to live, I will steal from you. It's not, I'm going to fight back. She doesn't couch it in a language of self-defensiveness. She works to steal. Which is a fascinating choice. I sort of, you know, I think I might have underestimated Ellie on some level. I had read her as kind of the law-abiding do-gooder to Tokio's, like, wants to do good, but also but also is not really meant to live under the rules of Yamato Mori. But I'm not sure Ellie is either. I don't know. Either way, Chandra's out of the picture for now. Ellie stands victorious in a rousing climax for that whole fight. And maybe even Chandra as a character in total. I also haven't even talked about Tokio's contributions this chapter, because there's so much going on with Ellie, I sort of ignored Tokio. But, like, his moment of just, you know, getting higher and higher, that just, I mean, the way that Ishida, there's just something about the art to this series. The way he draws the body in these sort of, you know, extreme, like, contortioned positions. Like, I'm looking specifically at Chandra's face in the Other Bird in the World panel. And also, you know, the 90-degree neck, the scorched up Ellie. It just is cool to read. It's always cool to read. And then, you know, we have that rousing climax, and just this series is so good. The series is so good, and I can't wait to see what comes next. So with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, you know, do whatever makes it happy, you know? And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!